Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 353 of our BU 365-day challenge to do one thing every day that improves us in some way. Been working really hard this year, so this month I decided that we were just going to ask, I'm going to ask, and we're going to all answer, me included, of course, 2 questions every day. You can answer one or the other or none, but we want to make sure we're continuing the momentum that we've created this year to do one thing every day. And it doesn't have to be a big complicated thing, but something that makes us at least feel better about ourselves, make sure we're moving toward our goals and objectives, something that makes us become a better or helps us to become a better version of ourselves. Does everything we do work? No, of course not. But hopefully more things work than don't work, and that's how we lead a successful life, at least how I determine a successful life. So today our 2 questions are, it's actually Q19, it's the 19th, our 19th day of asking questions. The first one is it ever okay to lie? Is it ever okay to be dishonest and to not tell the truth? Now, I did a little research on this. I thought it was very interesting about most people, if they're lying for the wrong reasons, it's for, and there's like all the different reasons people lie. There's, different justifications for lying and things. But if it's in their own self-interests, unless it's to protect yourself from harm or getting killed or tortured or something, probably shouldn't lie. And then there's another type of lies called pro-social, meaning you're lying for someone else's benefit. You're lying to protect them. Maybe you want to make sure they don't get their feelings hurt or something. Again, it's up to each and every one of us to decide. I learned a long time ago, not a good liar. As a little kid, I would get caught in everything I tried to fib in. So I just learned it was better to be honest and tell the truth in every situation. Because then on a lot of things, there's a lot of benefits to telling the truth, right? Number one, you're trustworthy. You trust other people and they trust you. Number two, you don't have to remember what you told a fib about because you're just being yourself and you're being honest. Our second question today, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this because I want to share something in our Supersize Your Business group, and I'm going to practice it here because I think it's an interesting topic and we can benefit from it as well. Our second question is, if you had amnesia and then you remembered, would you remember that you forgot? Never thought about this before. I don't think I've ever had amnesia. As I get older, I forget stuff, but then I remember, and I remember that I forgot because I don't have amnesia, actually. I just am getting forgetful as I get older. I think nowadays we are more forgetful and more distracted because of all the things vying for our attention than ever before. I don't know if it's getting older so much as there's just so much stuff coming at us all the time. It's so easy to get distracted and not concentrate on the things that we want to remember and focus on. We just are being dragged in so many different directions. So the other thing I'm going to talk about today, our idiom for Supersize Your Business is to pull someone's leg. And of course, like all idioms, there's some controversy over whether and how it actually originated, and there's no proof of the two main ways they think it could have come about. There's no actual documented proof of it, so nobody really knows for sure if that's how this particular idiom or expression originated. It's like slang. It pops into our language, in and out of our language all the time, and we don't necessarily know. I mean, one person might have actually started it and said it, and then it just caught on. And that's how idioms are. People say them, and then other people start to understand and use them, and they're around usually a long time before they become popular and a part of our language. I remember the phrase dude. I swore when I started to hear dude that I would never say dude. And of course, like everything else, it sneaks into my language as well. Not so much anymore because it's not very popular, but when in the 70s, I think in the 80s, maybe I don't remember when it came about, but I remember my kids were little. It had to be the 90s. And I said, I will never say dude. And lo and behold, once in a while I caught myself saying it, and the kids were like, you said you'd never say that. And I'm like, I know, I forgot. I got influenced just like everybody else. So I found an interesting article that was the 10 telltale phrases that indicate somebody might be lying or is lying or they're not telling the truth. And I thought this was interesting, and they basically shared 10 tactics or strategies that people that are lying tend to use. Now, I don't think these are absolute, and my example for this is, I will say, let me be honest, or and it's just, I don't say it as I'm lying before. I say it in the context of I'm going to be vulnerable and really share something here, not that I haven't been telling the truth before. Because guess what? We don't tell everybody everything, right? We don't even tell ourselves everything. Why would we think we would tell other people everything? But I thought this was pretty interesting and pretty educational because it talks about the technique and then it gives an example or two of how people might use this. Now, we know if people are lying to us or not, right? Not all the time. There are people that are excellent liars. You know, there's personality disorders that are absolutely terrific at lying. And actually, I think people like narcissists believe in their mind the stuff that they tell other people, things like that. I think manipulators and liars, they think that they're justified or that they're right, and I think they make up stories that they actually come to believe. I could be wrong, but it seems like it to me, the ones I've met. So what are some of these? I don't know that I'll cover all 10. The first one is stalling tactics, where they'll ask a question and try to divert your attention. They'll say, did I do it? Or something like that. Of course not. Or they'll say, did I do that? Of course not. And then the next one is sweeping contractions. Oh, they skipping contractions. So if you normally say, I didn't do it, they would say, I did not do that. And I don't think just because somebody doesn't use a contraction means that they're not telling the truth. Remember, this is like everything else. We have to consider the context, consider the source, consider the situation, what's going on, and then determine for ourselves if we think somebody is being honest or not with us. Number 3, making sweeping statements like, I would never, or I always, you know. I think of some great liars I know, and them is like, as I'm sharing these, examples pop into my head, and I'm not telling anybody that I know that's a liar, but I know some pretty good liars. Number 4, overemphasizing their trustworthiness, and that's where the to be honest, to tell the truth, let me be clear, the fact is, they say things like that before they say statements, and it's kind of like everything that comes before the word but, they say is zero it out when you say but. So you're complimenting somebody, and then you say but, and then you say something, and they don't hear anything before the but because it all disappears. I don't know that that's always true, but I think it's often true. Number 5, hedging their statements, and they'll say things like, as far as I recall, and things like that. Number 6, they avoid I statements. They don't say I this, I that. They use we and what do they call collective terms instead of talking about themselves, saying I statements, because then they feel like most people do this or that, then they don't feel like they're not telling the truth. I guess I just gave some examples of that in my conversation. Number 7, dodge direct answers. So do you think I could do such a thing? They'll say things to like, they're not answering the question. Like if you call someone out on something and you think that they're not telling the truth, well, do you think I did that? They're dodging the question. They're not answering. They're not saying they did or didn't. They're asking you, and they're putting it back on you to say, well, do you think I would do such a thing, etc. Number 8, going into defensive mode. Have we ever experienced that? Like all the time? The media is like constantly in defensive mode. And they'll ask questions like, how could you doubt me? How could you think that I would not be telling the truth? How could you possibly think that mainstream media is not being 100% honest with you? How could you possibly think that? How can you be naive enough to believe that? I don't know. How could I? Number 9, deflecting or evading. And then they'll ask questions like, well, don't you have something better to do? Why are you poking your nose in this? Why do you want to know? What business is it of yours? Things like that. And then finally, number 10, embellishing insignificant things and diminishing really important things. So I can think of a lot of examples of this too, but they'll make a big deal out of stuff that really freaking doesn't matter. Think of the media right now. The media is pulling little things out, and they're embellishing and making huge issues out of things that are really small issues. I think of things like, and this is going to get me in trouble, but I think of the issue of transgender. They're blowing that up out of proportion versus the percentage of people that it affects, and making it in everybody's face because they're trying to divert our attention from other things that are going on in the world, and mostly from other things that our government and politics and politicians are doing that are not above board. So they'll embellish insignificant things or make them bigger than they are, and they'll take important things like the economy, inflation, the borders, and they'll pretend that they don't exist. They won't even talk about them. Do we see any of that going on in our world right now? Scary but true. So I think that's a really good list and really good things to keep in mind. Now, we all do these things. I've probably done all these things, thousands of times in my life, but I don't think my intent's to lie or be dishonest, right? Maybe other people think it is, but I don't think it is. So, but we can see examples of all of these things all around us. And I think it reminds us just to be aware, think for ourselves, and remember to pay attention to our spidey senses. And we know if people are not telling us the truth or not. We all have the ability to and the intuition to know. We don't, depending on the relationship though, we don't always want to know what we don't want to know. I'm a huge person that does that. I've been in situations and relationships for a really long time where I suspected things were off, but I didn't really want to know it because then I had to do something about it, because I had to do what was right to match my morals, my values, my beliefs about what's right and what's wrong. All right. If I can help you in any way, ask. Otherwise, I will be with you tomorrow for 2 more questions. No idea what they're going to be. I will look later. Have an awesome day, and I'll be with you tomorrow.